Hi, I'm Carolina.
And I'm Katia, and we're super excited to share a little bit of time with you. We are both physicians, we're both psychiatrists, and we are co-founders of a company called Inner Growth Lab.
So basically how we came with this, Katia and I, we both experienced burnout, and now we have recovered. And so based on our personal experience on dealing with a lot of patients who have struggled with stress and anxiety and things like that, our clinical experience, our background on the brain and neuroscience, we decided that we needed to go out there and help other female physicians like us to empower each other to become stronger and be able to succeed at our highest level, thriving in life rather than just surviving. And so here we are today with you because we want to share some of the things that had helped us, particularly now because we have this now acute event that clearly can affect our ability to cope and with stress and anxiety. And so we want to share it with you so that we can all together become strong and resilient groups of female physicians.
So the things that we want to share today with you is a little bit of an overview of what we're going through currently with this COVID-19 virus. We want to talk about how it can affect our stress levels, what that can do to our brain health, and how it can manifest in symptoms. And then lastly, talk a little bit about what we actually can do to cope with this acute stress we're undergoing. So we know that a lot of us just go surviving day to day. A lot of us just go to work and try to do their best and try to get to that exit line and go back home and repeat, right? Just merely surviving. We've been on a journey of switching from surviving to thriving. And that journey has been amazing. A lot of the tools that we have learned and we have implemented in our day-to-day can be really helpful to tackle stress and tackle this difficult, acute event that we're going through.
Right.
And that's where we want to share all those tools with you today, give you actionable things that you can put into practice right now.
So we want to give you value, right? So what we want to talk to you about it are things that are proven to be effective to cope with stress and anxiety and eventually help with burnout. We're not going to address burnout itself, but we're going to address this state of fear that we're going through as everything develops with this virus that is out there. So, we're all physicians. We're all are going to be in different situations taking care of patients. Some of them might be sick and you might be exposed to that person. And absolutely, there's no question that is going to inflict some fear on most of us.
So let's talk a little bit about the stress that comes from that, right? Because it's not just dealing with sick patients.
No.
It's the stress of the paranoia that's out there. You go to the store and there's no things to buy, no essentials to buy. Focusing at work, your patients are afraid. Your staff is afraid. You have the stress from being the leader, from being the physician. The decisions that we're making will impact our patients, will impact our staff, will impact our lives. So at work, there's huge stress more than ever. And there's a daily change that is going on. Change itself is extremely stressful. We don't know what to expect. And that unknown, that uncertainty brings up a lot of fear. And when we start fearing, when we start being afraid, we start worrying what will happen, making all kinds of scenarios in our head, what could happen, how are things going to evolve, and how are things going to deal in the future. And to be honest, when we go that route, we usually tend to have very catastrophic thinking.
Right. So we're not going to go into details about the virus per se, but we're just going to address a couple of factors. So number one, we're dealing with a virus that is completely new, right? When we enter a land that is unknown, that itself causes increased fear. That is a given. Number two, people are panicking when they're not supposed to. And they're going out, like Katia said, buying everything on the grocery stores. There is a local supermarket here called Stater Brothers, which is now encouraging people to just buy 1 week of supplies at a time. And they're being very reassuring that things are not going to disappear. So I think everybody in the community is starting to notice that panic state and is contributing to that. So, I'll give you my personal example. I needed toilet paper. Usual, I go to the store once a week, I buy toilet paper, and then when I got there and I saw there was no toilet paper, I did felt a little bit of anxiety. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? I didn't panic or anything, but I felt it. And so I think what is very important about this is that it's okay to have those feelings. It's okay to have those emotions. You don't have to be perfect. We are human beings. We develop emotions as things goes by. So number 2 is what we call the collective unconsciousness. We're seeing this huge amount of collectiveness, panic state, and that is really very bad. Okay, and then the other thing that we need to talk about is our own families, right? So I don't have children. Katya has children. But my husband is much older than I am. He has hypertension and he has heart surgery. So I am really very concerned for my husband because I'm going to the hospital and then I'm coming home. So I don't know if this is going to help or what. But what I am doing is as soon as we get home, we take our shoes off. We clean our phones with wipes. We get in the house, we take a shower, we change our clothes. And so that's what we're been doing at home. Is it going to work? I have no idea, but I'm trying to do everything I can instead of going into a state of panic. So that will be another component as to why this new virus is affecting us in different manners. So I can only imagine how it is for doctors, anesthesiologists, people in the intensive care unit, people in pulmonology, emergency department, just dealing with the patients who are positive for the virus. We both work in an inpatient hospital. We both are in leadership. And so right now we've been doing a lot of like by the hour development, creating protocols. What happens if this patient comes with these symptoms? How are we going to stop groups? So it's a lot of things that are literally by the hour. And I think that sense of constant change is also can be causing fear. Like for me, it makes me feel especially more anxious.
Yeah. And now something that you were hinting to is the fact that all these emotions are normal reactions. Fear is a normal reaction. Anxiety can be a normal reaction, but it can also get to an extreme. So part of this is the idea of reactions to what we're living are normal.
Right.
And these are normal feelings and they're alerting us that something is going on.
Right.
Now, what you do from there on is what we're here to talk about, and we'll get to that.
Right. So there is this phenomenal book called The Gift of Fear, and it actually normalizes a lot the importance of having a certain degree of fear, right? So imagine if we have to deal with this virus and we're just super chill, nobody's scared, right? I mean, you can see that going really bad. So fear to a certain extent, like Katya said, we need to have that feeling. Anxiety to a certain extent, we need to have that. So when we talk about fear and anxiety, then we have to talk about another thing that comes together, which is trauma, right? So I know for a lot of people, the word trauma is like, oh my God, you think about like physical abuse or sexual abuse, but we are constantly exposed as physicians to daily traumatic situations. When your patient dies, when you have an adverse event, when something goes wrong, if you have people that work with you right now and are getting sick, like those 2 doctors we have now who are in critical care, I think one is in Washington, the other one is in New Jersey. So that for us is traumatic because, we are seeing ourselves in those situations. So I would say that to a certain degree, we all are experiencing a traumatic situation. And so the question is, well, what do we do about this? I'm expecting that some people are going to be able to overcome it. And I think if we come together, and that's why we're doing this, and we can empower each other, we are going to be able to overcome this from an emotional point of view, on a way of resiliency, of rebounding back to who we were before this COVID came out. So now we're going to address the brain. How does all the situation of the coronavirus, how traumatic experiences, how anxiety affects the way how we behave? It all has to do about the brain activity. Mm-hmm. So we have the frontal lobe, where we have our prefrontal cortex, and then we have the limbic system, which is located somewhere in the middle between those temporal lobes. These two areas of the brain are extremely important in regulating how we react to the external stimulus. The limbic system is that area of the brain that we call is more like the wild, the aggressive, the immediate reaction, the knee-jerk reaction that we have in life. So the limbic system has the amygdala, and every time our mind, our body feels they're in a state of danger, that amygdala is going to fire. And so the reactions that we have to that can be being aggressive, fighting, or it can be more like feel like I want to hide in a shell, or it can be I'm just going to run away. Mm-hmm. Okay? The prefrontal cortex is our thinking brain, it's our social brain, is that part of the brain that when something threatening is happening to us, we say, okay, hold on, before you fight back, let's see what else we can do.
This is a rational brain. It brings sense to that emotional brain. But the trick is that the emotional brain is much faster than the rational brain. So when something acute's going on, what happens first is that emotional brain makes us react right away.
Correct. That is what it is. What it is. It's that way. So if you are a person that have a good lifestyle, that take good care of your body through many different things like nutrition, physical activity, meditation, what are you doing there is you're making that prefrontal cortex become stronger and stronger. So in situations where the stress and the fear goes up, that prefrontal cortex is going to be able to manage better that amygdala. If you live in chronic stress, your prefrontal cortex is going to thin. There's actually studies that have shown this with brain imaging. So the biggest study shown or done was with medical students that were going through a lot of burnout, and they had brain imaging, and they showed these changes of the prefrontal cortex thinning and the amygdala being more overreactive. They put these medical students through a training course of burnout for 4 weeks. And the cool thing about this study is that when they repeated those brain images, actually all of those things have reversed. So this is the importance of ourselves taking care of us throughout our lives, not just something right in the moment. But anyways, that is sort of like a separate note. So the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system, sort of like we need to help them, work together. And when we have stress, our brains is going to react in these manners, and that's why we're going to behave the way we do and react the way we do.
So what's going on right now? We are not just dealing with the normal stress that we have every day from work, from home. We have added layers of stress, right?
Correct.
And we already talked about it in the beginning a little bit, but you have added layers of expectations because you're a leader, because you have to make decisions at work. You have added layers of fear because you don't know who you're dealing with when patients come in. You don't know if they're infected or they've been exposed, or are they exposing you. You don't know if you're carrying that virus home. And I have children, so am I protecting my children? Am I keeping them safe enough? They're freaking out at home and driving us nuts. So that's another extra layer.
Exactly.
What are the children's expectations of everything that's going on? Because they've heard the news, they know that there's something going on, and they feel the vibes, they feel the emotions around them. So everything is being tinted with extra layers of stress. So these are not normal amounts of stress we're dealing with. These are extra, higher levels of stress that we're not used to dealing with. So our brains, our amygdalas are just firing like crazy. And they're firing for you to either fight or freeze. And when we're getting to the freeze zone, it's already on the extreme, like you're paralyzed and you don't know what to do.
So I want to mention, we were just talking about this. Right before Katya came, she was saying she came a little later than expected, and you were saying well, it sounds like in the unit everything is so much slower. It's like people are they're frozen. And so things are taking extra time these days.
Exactly.
So you just experienced that this morning. Imagine us who already have so much on our plate, right? And we're basically going day by day. You might be feeling a little bit burnout. I don't know. That might be your case. And then on top of it, you add this.
Yeah.
Oh, this
That's
is
crazy.
just, it's going to be really tough. So it is our hopes that this is going to contribute to a lot of value for you so that you can move ahead and start actually climbing out into more of a path of thriving in spite of this adversity we're going through.
Now we understand a little bit about the COVID pandemic, coronavirus, what's going on around us, our social situation, and we understand emotions and what's going on. So let's talk about things that we can actually do to better cope in this time of crisis. What are tools you can put into action today so that you can thrive and not just survive in this pandemic?
So granted that we both clearly understand the levels of stress we're all going through, we already gave you some background on to how and why we're reacting the way we are, because we are on the front lines. So now we're going to move into the action steps.
And these are simple action steps you can put into practice today, and they're not necessarily gonna leave you stress-free. The point is, how can we best move through this pandemic? How can we give our best without burning out and crashing?
So Katia is going to be giving you some tips, and I will be doing some examples as she goes by, because we all are different, and so we're all going to cope in different manners.
And we're going to start with your thinking. How many of you find yourself talking to yourself and listening to your own voice in your head? I certainly do. And when you start paying attention to the voice in your head, to your own voice, oftentimes it ends up being very negative, especially in a situation like this one.
Right.
We're undergoing a huge amount of stress, and that worsens our voice in our heads. It ends up catastrophizing everything. So what happened? The other night, I get a phone call from the unit, and the nurse is telling me we have this one patient that was admitted asymptomatic and now is developing a little bit of temperature. Not even to the point of fever, but a little bit of temperature. My first thought, oh my goodness, this is a COVID patient. Now, if you take the facts, this is a brand new patient. I don't know where the patient's coming from. I don't know, it sounds like no symptoms before this. And this patient is here for opiate withdrawal, so it's gonna have a lot of the same symptoms. Reality is, may or may not be coronavirus. But what we have right now is very unlikely. We still will take all the precautions, and that's one of the important points. But what I'm trying to get to is the type of thoughts we allow our minds to have. We tend to catastrophize and go to the extremes and start, especially when there's so much unknown, so much uncertainty, our brain starts playing all the possible scenarios and all the worst case scenarios. And the challenge we want to bring you today is to remain with a neutral thinking.
So to clarify a little bit, so her thoughts went into catastrophic thinking, but then where do you want to refocus that, right? Because naturally, automatic, this is going to happen, but do you focus on that, or do you refocus to the knowledge and the information and the protocols and the facts?
Exactly. So if you focus on the facts, it's much easier to follow all the protocols you have to do. Instead of worrying, getting worked up and stressing out and freaking out, trying to... Anyways, you get the point. So neutral thinking is what top performers, athletes, everybody functioning at a really high level use to thrive and for success. So a athlete, or let's say a marathon runner, when they are starting their marathon, they're not thinking, oh, I need to run this 20 plus miles. No, they're sticking to the facts. They're sticking with, right now, I'm focusing on the next mile I have, I'm focusing on my pace right now and in the next little steps. Neutral thinking and sticking to the facts helps you accomplish what you need to do and keep moving forward to your goals.
So something also very similar that can relate to what we're going on is people in the military when they're sent to the war. You know, this is a life or threatening decision, right? So they also use this kind of neutral thinking so they can go forward with the plan or the mission they are sent forth. And this is very similar to what we're going on because this is a lot of life and threatening, you know, as a situation for us as care providers and for our patients in our community.
So you may wonder, how do I shape the type of thoughts I'm having? Because I've been having them my whole life. Well, there are small steps you can do. For one, being more aware of the type of thinking that goes through your head, it's really going to help out. When you start being more aware, you start identifying, oh, that's a very catastrophic thought. And once you're aware, once you see it, you really can't unsee it. So starting to pay more attention to the type of thoughts is a big first step. Another thing, you can do an actual negative diet. What am I talking about?
Yes.
A negativity diet. So this is basically reducing the input of negative stuff that comes into your brain. Because negative stuff is going to affect you negatively 100% of the time. Whether we're talking about negative input to your senses, whether we're talking about negative attitude, it will affect you negatively 100% of the times. So what can we do? Reducing the amount of news. If you look at the type of news we're getting, they're alarming. They're constantly trying to raise our fear. Right. They're trying to get us angry. Anyways, reducing that type of input will help us better control our thinking. Another big one, social media.
Woo! Huge one.
Right? If you've been on Facebook, Instagram lately, it's huge. So much fear factor. Although I've seen a lot of really good people trying to help and bring calm and bring sense. But if you are in groups, in Facebook groups that are discussing all the fear and elevating your fear, then that's something that you may want to cut off.
Yeah, so for my case, I found myself, looking at these different groups. So I decided to refocus my attention to those groups who are actually giving you accurate and positive information with the facts. And I got rid of those groups that were focusing on the blaming this, blaming that, we're here because of that. That will not help me right now. That is not going to help me to go through, help me, help my patients and everybody else. This is not the time for blaming. This is the time to come together and help each other.
So, to round up around your neutral thinking, the main 3 tips that we're talking about include not catastrophizing. So monitoring the type of thoughts you're having and minimizing the catastrophizing. 2, stick to the facts. Stick to what you know, it's true about the current situation. Stick to what you can do. Stick to the facts around where we are living today. And number 3, negativity diet. And you know what that means. Let's talk now about another big factor. This is working on your own attitude.
This is the A factor.
Right?
Probably
it's huge.
The most important one.
Yes. As humans, we are like light bulbs. We go through life sharing energy or spreading energy constantly. You know, when you start talking to a new person, within 2-3 seconds, you already have sensed the energy, the vibe that person's sharing. And there's some people that you're talking to, and in 2-3 seconds in, and you're like, wow.
And we both can truly tell you that this is 100 true, because our jobs involve to constantly talking to people who are severely ill. And if we don't take care of our emotions, we can get really pulled down. So this is absolutely true.
Of course, a lot of the people that we talk to, especially that are severely ill, but also that you encounter in the streets every day, you start talking to them 2-3 seconds and you're like, oh, wow, they drain me.
Absolutely.
They suck the life out of me. So your energy is a huge, huge component, your attitude. When you go about your day and living your life, if you have an amazing attitude, energy, if you have a joyful attitude, life, it's better. You give your best. You enjoy life better. When you go about life just with a bad attitude, like feeling like crap, not caring, life seems shitty. And we don't need experts to tell us this, because reality is we've experienced this. And when you have a great day, you give your best. And when you have a shitty day, you just have a shitty attitude and you just have a shitty day.
Right.
The difference between when you're giving your best and when you're not really giving your best is your attitude. And I want to share with you a little formula that reflects the value that we have as human beings. Why do people value us? Why do they value you? Because you're a great person. Yeah, that's true, but why? So the formula behind your value is K plus S times A. What does it mean? K is knowledge, and you need knowledge for everything in life. You need knowledge to treat people with coronavirus. You need knowledge to pour a soda in a glass. You need knowledge for anything. And the more knowledge you have, maybe people will value you for your knowledge. S is skills. Skills are the experience you gain. Skills are what you learn to get really good at. And A is your attitude. But when you look at the formula, K plus S times A. K adds, your knowledge adds. S, your skills, they add as well. But your attitude multiplies. In reality, people will value us for all those three, but especially for your attitude, because your attitude is what makes the difference.
So I really believe that most of you, if not all of you, have encountered people who has tremendous knowledge, are experts in the field, and yet they're just nasty people to be around. So compare that to someone else who also has knowledge and wonderful skills, but they're approachable, they're team players, they want to work with you. Their attitude is that one that is contagious to make the team thrive. Isn't that a huge difference?
So let's apply that to the healthcare system right now, dealing with this huge crisis. If you're under a huge amount of stress, you're trying to work with a team, you're dealing with very sick patients, what is going to make a difference? Your attitude and the attitude of the people in your team. But since we can't control what other people do, let's talk about our own attitudes. If we are approachable, if we are bringing our best attitude, sharing the best energy, we are going to make those around us much more comfortable working in this difficult environment.
So we do want that you understand that this is challenging to do it, especially in the moments of crisis. But if you know this information and you're conscious about the fact that your attitude has so much effect, when you start working and you start being bitchy or grouchy or whatever you want to call it, just become aware of that and maybe take a time or a minute or two and refocus your attitude. Because when you are in the midst of everything, our attitude is going to change. That it has happened to me recently. So I'm aware now, I refocus that again, and then I change the attitude.
I want to share with you an exercise that we learned from Brendan Bouchard. By the way, if you want more resources, he's an amazing guy, and we'll put his link to his website and material on the bonuses. So Brendan Bouchard has this exercise that it's called Release Tension and Set Intention. And we have adapted this exercise to our current plan and situation. The exercise is very, very basic. The idea is to, before any big event or any new space you're walking into or activity you're walking into, take 1 minute to release tension and set the intention you want for the next phase that you're going to be living in. So let's say you're going from home to your shift in the emergency department or the unit, wherever you're working, and you're in the parking lot about to walk into the hospital. Take a minute. sit on the car, close your eyes, and just take a minute to take a deep breath and just release. And take 4 or 5 breaths thinking of the word release, and release your muscles with every breath out. Once you've done that, think of what is the actual attitude I want to bring into this next activity I'm walking into. Am I walking to the unit? What attitude do I want to bring in? As I walk through those doors, what do I want to share? What energy do I want to share with those working with me? Setting the intention on the attitude you want to bring, it's going to make a huge difference into how actually you're showing up once you're stepping into work. And this exercise can be done when you're stepping into work, when you're going from work back to home, basically in any transition that you go through.
So I want to make an emphasis on the point of the breathing. The reason why is because, as most of you probably already know, when we are under stress, in crisis, our breath becomes very shallow and very fast. And that starts to send a signal to that part of the brain, the amygdala, that will increase your stress response. And so by you spending a minute or two breathing in and out slowly, that will reset your brain and bring down that stress response.
So you're going from the sympathetic mode into a parasympathetic mode, more calm and relaxed, and you're preparing yourself to better approach the stressful situation you're about to encounter. So what else can we do for attitude? There's a lot of research behind a very simple activity that you can do that can hugely impact your attitude. And this is the attitude of gratitude. Gratitude is huge. When you are angry, you can't be grateful. When you are grateful, you can't be angry. And it's very simple. We can only be in one mood, one emotional state at a time. When you cultivate an attitude of gratitude, it starts shifting you from a negative emotion state to a positive emotional state.
So another very quick tip that we can all use. I have been doing that for a while now, but now I'm refocusing more to the COVID situation. Because for me, I have my regular set of stress and now this is adding up. So I'm trying to be grateful of the things that this current crisis are giving to me. So I'll give you a very quick example. I am pretty surprised at how well I am able to deal with administration on terms of building protocols for our inpatient hospital. And so I have been grateful for that experience this situation has given me to realize that I'm good at things that I haven't thought about before.
So the challenge we bring you today is to set aside a few minutes, and this again, it doesn't take long. It takes 2-3 minutes top to think about the things that you're grateful. If you can come up with 2 or 3 things, that would be amazing. And if you can journal about them, that has an added power, because when you put hand to paper, it actually goes through the brain through different pathways and it reinforces the effect. So journaling about 2 or 3 things that you are really grateful for, and allowing yourself, this is another big step, allowing yourself to re-experience the feeling that you had when you experienced those things you are grateful for. That is a very powerful exercise. Another tip, another one for your attitude.
Go for it.
It's about optimism.
Yeah.
And optimism, a lot of times we think it's a trait that people have. And in reality, optimism is something we can cultivate. What is optimism? Optimism is the positive outlook that good things will happen in the future. But let me give just a caveat. There's something called naive optimism too. Naive optimism is having the positive expectation but not doing anything about it.
Or worse. I have heard so many times during these times, well, I am young, I can get out, I'm not going to get sick, I'm an optimist. No, that's not what we're talking about.
Exactly. So optimism is cultivating that hope, that positive expectation that good things will happen and doing something about it. And optimism can be cultivated. You can grow your optimism. There was a study done in a group of people that were asked to journal about 3 awesome things that happened that day. So every evening they would journal about 3 awesome things that they had happened that day. And this was in a span of only 7 days. And they monitor symptoms of depression, of low self-esteem, etc. By the end of that week, only 1 week, the negative mood components had improved amazing. And this is a very simple exercise. We're not saying that this will treat your stress. We're not saying that it will treat your depression. No. But it's a component of something that you can work on, and it can have an impact in your attitude. So rounding up, on your attitude, we talked about 3 things that you can do as well. So number 1, set an intention for the attitude you want to bring into any situation you're walking into. Number 2, gratitude. Build an attitude of gratitude. And number 3, grow your optimism. Cultivate your optimism.
Moving forward to another topic that is also equally important, we're going to talk about self-care. This is not the time to give up on this. I have just recently experienced that feeling because I'm having a lot more stress dealing with administration and the whole hospital. I have this urge to go back to bad habits. And so I have to be very conscious and put a lot of effort because I feel much better when I do self-care.
So a big one, and I think we've both been dealing with this one, is the craving for carbs. So
terribly.
So especially when you are quarantined at home, especially if you are not on your shift or not working, your whole family's at home or whoever you live, or you might be alone, that feeling of, I don't know what to do, I either get bored or I don't have my routine, it triggers that desire to do something that feels good. And carbs usually feel great for me. So big component of self-care is keeping in mind what we usually do to take care of ourselves. And here we're talking about good amounts of sleep because it's very important to reduce stress and be able to best manage with stress, to have a good night's sleep, to be rested.
Yeah, so a lot of you are not going to be able to have that ability to have a good night's sleep, but we just want to reinforce that as soon as you can go into a regular sleep cycle, don't give up on that opportunity. Just go ahead and allow your shift to be over, allow your boss to let you go home, allow that because you cannot pour water from an empty glass.
Yes. Exercise is another big one. All gyms are closed now. We're being asked to self-isolate, right? But there's still many opportunities to exercise.
Tons.
You can still do things at home. There's workouts, all kinds of workouts you can find online. It just takes commitment and effort. But this is a huge thing you can do for yourself too. We talked a little bit about food, but being mindful of what you're eating and not just giving into all the comfort foods. Of course, a little bit of comfort food is fine, and this is a matter of balance, but being mindful that this is not the time to just let yourself go.
Right, so if you are call after call, shift after shift, you're not having time to stop and you just go, and you start picking here, picking there, the donut, whatever. Make time to find for yourself healthy treats, things that are going to fuel and replenish your body. So when you are on the go, you have something you can grab that is going to fuel you, but is not going to allow you to have that post-sugar crash or post-carb crash.
Another tip in this area of self-care is giving yourself time to unwind, especially after a lot of stressful shifts, right? Allowing yourself to calm down. You can use the tip that we already talked about, release tension and set intention. or you can use a hot bath, or you can use a nice conversation with your partner. Whatever it is, allow yourself to unwind and to break from the stress from work and allow yourself to be present in whatever you do. Another big one is connecting with other people. Although we are on a time of social distancing, that doesn't mean that connection needs to end. There's many ways that you can still connect. And we are very fortunate to live in a time when we have access. We can call people, we can FaceTime, we can Zoom, we can see our friends on Facebook, Instagram, etc., etc. So it's not a time of isolating.
Right.
You can still connect, and we encourage you to do that too.
So my brother is his birthday is on Tuesday, and he called me like during the week, and he was like, oh my god, I am so stressed, we're not going to be able to see each other in a long time, I'm not going to be able to see my mother because my mother is a senior, and so we have a very beautiful surprise for him planned, and we're going to have dinner via Zoom. So there you go, technology plays really good right now.
And adding just a tiny bit extra to this connection topic is the tip of being present. Oftentimes our mind is everywhere, we're multitasking in our heads, and we don't allow ourselves to be present in the moment with whoever we are.
Right.
So allowing yourself to let go of all the worries and stress and being present with your loved ones, it can make a huge difference in that connection, in that sense of togetherness. Whether it's via FaceTime, whether it's with your children at home, being present. And this is easier said than done.
Absolutely.
It's very hard to be present, but set the intention of being present at least for 5 or 10 minutes, and you'll see how rewarding it is to have a present moment with your loved ones. Since we're talking about self-care, something that can be very helpful is to create a menu of the things that you really enjoy doing for your own self-care. Oftentimes when we are running and stressed out, especially now that the stress has multiplied, it's really hard to think of what can I do to treat myself. We tend to not think of the things that usually are joyful for us. So setting a time to write down, put in your phone, ideas of things that you can actually do can be something really helpful for the very peak moments of stress. So we can give you some ideas here. Since we are social distancing, something that can be very relaxing is taking a bath by yourself, getting the music you like most, preparing a healthy meal together with those loved ones that live with you, reaching out and connecting to people.
Right. So another thing is things that are buried away because we never had time to do it. Maybe this is the time to take them out. So I had this keyboard, is full of dust, and so 2 days ago I just de-dusted. I start playing with the keyboard, and so I'm gonna use YouTube and start learning a couple of very simple music in the keyboard.
And actually you just said something that's huge, learning. Sometimes we don't have time to learn because we're so busy. Right now you can learn to speak Italian or whatever that's my language I want to learn, or reading those books that you didn't get to until now. In the bonus section, we're gonna put a bunch of other ideas, and we're gonna give you a list of books and podcasts that we found very helpful for ourselves. So if you're looking for ideas, you're gonna find a lot of them there. And last but not least, is reaching out for help.
Absolutely.
Find yourself the community that can support you. The support is huge, is very important right now. We've been talking about distancing from those Facebook groups that are negative. We've been talking about getting an optimist or positive environment and good things around us. Well, reaching out for help when we need it, reaching out for the right support is very important.
So I am a healthcare provider, you are one, and we know exactly how terrible it is for us to reach out for help. So we really want to make emphasis on this point. Please go out and ask for help.
We are all humans in the end. And as a bonus, we want to offer you a community where you can join us and join other like-minded healthcare providers so that we can give each other support, we can give each other ideas, share positive things, share our gratitude for the things that we are living, experiencing, learning. And we just want to build an amazing community of healthcare providers that are thriving, that are not just surviving, that are thriving despite everything that we're going through. So to round up the self-care topic, these are the things that we've been talking about. Don't give up on your self-care. Allow yourself time to unwind. Connect with your loved ones. Be present with your loved ones. Make a list or a menu of things that you enjoy and things that you can do for your own self-care. And last, ask for help if you need it.
The last area we want to touch on is spirituality. Spirituality is an extremely important component of everyone's day-to-day life. We all have different types of backgrounds, we all have different walks in life, and we all have different types of spirituality. But one thing that all we share in terms of our spirituality is the concept of meaning. So meaning comes from what us human beings do here on this earth. What brings us that desire, that motivation to do the things we do? A lot of us, and I believe this for all healthcare providers, is that we find meaning in our job, right? This is extremely important. For us, Katia and I, we both are Christians, and our faith is a tremendous source of meaning. And it's really for us what gives us a strength. And so we're going to elaborate a little bit more on the meaning. So when people lack of meaning in their lives, that can lead them to a feeling of despair and hopelessness and emptiness. And when we lack of meaning, we can end in doing behaviors that can be dangerous, can be risky, just plain not healthy. So this concept of meaning right now is extremely crucial and important. There is a person called Viktor Frankl. He was a person who survived concentration camps. Between 1942 and 45, he was there and all his family went through, and unfortunately, or fortunately, he was the only one who survived this experience. While he was going through that experience, he was able to discover new paradigms in how to deal and cope with adversity. And so he created something called logotherapy. And logotherapy is something that Katia and I, we base a lot of our work on, because meaning, again, is so important in human life, especially when we're going through crisis. So when we lack of meaning, there is something that is very dangerous that can also happen, and that is boredom. So if work gives you meaning and you are being taken away or removed from that one thing that gives you so much meaning, you're going to start feel boredom at home. And if you're bored, it's going to translate to your partner, to your kids, to whoever else is living with you. And that can make these moments where we are isolating to be even more difficult to manage. So how can we provide meaning at home? How can we make this moment, this crisis, meaningful? And there are many different ways. So I'm going to start with the basic concepts about logotherapy so that you understand a little bit better what all this means. So first, life has meaning under all circumstances. That is a fact. Second, we have the freedom, the absolute freedom to find meaning whenever we want, wherever we are. Second, accept that life is not fair. And that applies not only now, but in general. Bad things are going to happen. Unfair situations, we see them all the time, everywhere. Now, another very important point is accept the worst.
And there's this phrase that says, prepare for the worst, but expect the best, or something along that line. And when you know the facts of what we're living today, you know what can be the outcome. We can be prepared for the worst, but we can also expect the best and take actions that align with that expectation.
Right, so that way your mind doesn't go into catastrophic thinking, but at the same time you're preparing, which is crucial, which is essential for survival. And the last thing, it is focus on others. So my example for you has to do with my mother. My mother is 72, she's an elderly, she is totally staying 100% home, and she's having a little bit difficulty adjusting. So we found something for her that she could find meaning. And so what she's doing now, she joined this huge group of ladies via Facebook that are sewing masks for the hospitals that are in need. So there are many things that we can do. Another tip or another way how can we focus on others is if you have a lot of kids at home, you can work with them writing letters and making drawings that you can mail to nursing homes, because we know our older people are having also difficulty times with this coronavirus. And so you're giving your kids, you're teaching them community, you're teaching them how to find meaning, and you're giving back. So these are wonderful things that are win-to-win for everyone else.
And on the other hand, of course, we want to find meaning at home, but also if you are in the front lines of the healthcare system right now, dealing with a lot of people that are struggling with coronavirus,
right,
you can also look for the blessing in disguise, right? What meaning can you get from helping and giving to all these people struggling?
Right.
So although it can be very stressful and high stakes environment that you're going to be working in, realizing that there is a reason why you're there, that you're helping people. What is the meaning you get out of that? That can also shift the attitude that you're bringing into what you need to do every day.
And then following on that thought, finding meaning in pain, right? This requires a little bit of extra mentally triggering because it's not an easy thing to do. We all have at different stages have encountered death, we have encountered bad outcomes, and we right now are living in a moment where everything is unexpected, it's unknown, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And when we encounter something really painful, at some point during this process, finding the meaning behind that is going to be very important.
We really hope this is helpful for you and it can give you tools to better deal and cope with the stressful times that we're living in. We want to reach out and connect with you, and we want to invite you to be a part of our community too. No matter where you saw this video, we want to invite you to come to our website and join the online course that we've prepared. Is completely free. It will have a bunch of bonuses in there for things as coping skills, for things as resources, for actual facts about coronavirus and where we are today with coronavirus. So we'll be putting information there that we want to share and that we think it's very helpful. And we are also going to be having an online community, and all the information is going to be there. So come join us. It's completely free, and share this with anyone that might benefit from this.
So this comes from a place of love, because we want you to thrive out there in the midst of all this chaos and crisis that we're living for, because we believe in you and because we are rooting for you.
More than 100 years ago, William Osler, who was the founder of Johns Hopkins, said this about medicine. Medicine is a science of uncertainty and an art of probability. He understood that medicine is not exact. It requires asking questions and openly expressing our concerns and our own doubts, a surrender of confidence in our own knowledge, an admission that we may find ourselves in unfamiliar territory. Today, we're fortunate to have access to online forums, to groups, to reaching out to experts, and we encourage you to do that. especially in this unfamiliar territory that we are going through.
So with that, we finish this, and we really, really hope that this is going to be beneficial for you and for everyone else that is around you. Because when we change, it's like a domino effect, and everybody starts to get the same feeling.
Remember, we are light bulbs. We go around sharing our energy. That's the thing that we have control over. You can work on you, you can do your inner growth, and that will show in your environment, in the way that you show up. So we hope and we're rooting for you that you can bring your best self to work, to home, and to anything that you might need to be dealing with right now.
All right. Bye-bye.